second annual Malcolm X Justice and Peace Lecture Series at MCTC. My name is Matthew Palumbo. I teach philosophy and religion here at the college since 2002. This is the second event for the day. We had an earlier event starting at 11 on Syria. This event at 1 is on Egypt. We have another event at 3 o'clock on Somalia, and you're all invited to the evening session on global living in an age of revolution that starts at 6 o'clock with dinner. The Malcolm X Justice and Peace Lecture Series was started 2 years ago by students and faculty who believe that African American, and Muslim people who struggle for justice and peace are often known for their activism, but not as much for their intellectual contributions that help us all, as they say, read the signs of the times. We believe that the academy in the United States, whether in elementary, high school, or college, has not taken these intellectual contributions seriously. So the purpose of the Malcolm X series is to promote the intellectual traditions of African American, African, and Islamic authors and activists as they relate to contemporary issues of justice and peace. Malcolm X was not just a great activist, but a great intellectual as well. I would like to thank Khadija Bawazir, one of the co-founders of this series, for all of her leadership and hard work. Dr. Nadia Mohammed for her efforts and work in organizing this event together. Noura Bawazir, who made the lovely posters that are all around campus, and the many students in the Philosophy Club who sponsored this event. Also thanks to Dr. Ruthann Crapo, Dr. Charles Watson, and MCTC's Mayar, Modu, and Fadumo for their contributions as well. We believe that events like this are the best of MCTC, a place that educates not just for a sustainable career or artistic creativity or social activism, but also a place that challenges us to cultivate a socially engaged life of the mind. If you take a look at the agenda, the purple agenda, we have plenty of time for questions and answers after our speakers present. And so while they are talking, please generate good questions and comments to ask the panelists when they are done. Let me introduce to you our three speakers for today. First, Dr. Nadia Mohammed is Professor of Global Studies and Arab Studies at MCTC. She is Egyptian-born, Arab by ethnicity, American by residency, and Muslim by choice. She holds a bachelor's in business and in Islamic law, an MA in Sharia law, and a PhD in education. Dr. Nadia has founded 2 Islamic schools, taught at the Islamic University of Minnesota, and served in various leadership positions as well. She's a faculty advisor for the Muslim Student Association and published in both English and Arabic on various topics of Sharia law, secularism, and dialogue. She teaches courses here, including world religions, Arab history and cultures, and strategies for college success. Our guest speaker, Dr. Abdul Magoud Dardari, is a prominent Egyptian parliamentarian under President Morsi. He is a founding member of the Parliamentarians Against the Coup, a member of Parliament for the Luxor of the Freedom and Justice Party, director of the Luxor Islamic Center for Global Dialogue, and a member of the Freedom and Justice Party's Foreign Relations Committee. Dr. Dardari headed the Foreign Relations and Freedom and Justice Party first delegation to the White House and was a key advisor to President Morsi. Dr. Dardari holds a PhD from the University of Pittsburgh and has taught English and Islamic studies in the United States and Egypt. Finally, Mayar Arafa, a current student at MCTC. She is 19 years old. She was born and raised in Cairo, Egypt, and moved to the United States about 2 years ago. Mayar is currently a liberal arts major at MCTC and active in the engineering club, math club, and North Star STEM program. She is a tutor in the Learning Center and has been accepted at the University of Minnesota for computer engineering. Since the United States, Mayar has been going back to Egypt during the summer, giving her the opportunity to participate in the Egyptian Revolution. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Abdul Magoud with the keynote lecture, Challenges Facing Justice and Peace in Egypt.
I'm very happy and honored to be with you here today. I would like to thank you all for coming, especially during the midday. I would like to thank all those who participated to make this second annual Malcolm X Justice and Peace series available. I'm very honored to be part of the second, and I would like to wish a success for this series to continue years after years so that we can get to know one another. I would like to thank in particular Professor Matthew Palumbo for his leadership and his interest in bridging the differences and creating an academic atmosphere where different people can meet and talk with one another. I would like to thank Professor Nadia Mohammed for sharing the same ideas, the same perspective, so that we as human beings can create a better world. I would like to thank Khadija also for the work she did, and I would like to thank Maya Arafa for the intellectual contribution she will be doing during this particular session. I am very happy to be with you. I have many hats to wear. Today, I am dropping my political hat and I am putting on my academic hat because I am an academic setting and I am a university professor by profession. I am a politician by necessity. So I love teaching and I love being in a classroom where I can learn from the students, because teaching for me it goes both ways. I teach and I learn. Both students and teachers also teach and learn from one another. I always believe that a classroom setting is the most democratic place on the face of the earth because it allows all of us to speak freely and fairly with one another. It is very important to agree to disagree. Let us welcome all perspectives today. Let us listen to one another. Let us respect one another, because that is the tradition of Malcolm X. Malcolm X's courage is his ability to move from one position to another every time he receives new information. That is a courageous stand. Very few people on the face of the earth can do this. Usually when people join a movement, they get stuck in the movement. They cannot think outside of the box. Malcolm X was different. He became radical in his early days. Then he found the Nation of Islam. He joined the Nation of Islam. Then he found a racist part in the Nation of Islam. He said, no, no, no. This is not what I want. I want a new movement for everyone. Both black and white people can work together on issues of justice and the freedom for all. And that is the courage of a man that I love a lot. I love Malcolm X. I never knew of Malcolm X until I came to America, where I was doing my master's and PhD in University of Pittsburgh. When I knew the man, I loved him so much. I listened almost to all his speeches. His speeches, I call them the music of certainty, because it came from his heart. The man believed in what he said, and I believed in what he believed in. I didn't know that Malcolm X visited us in Egypt. If you remember the movie of Malcolm X, when he was visiting the pyramids, you know the pyramids are in Egypt, and he was visiting the pyramids. But right behind him, there were some secret police officers trying to see whom is Malcolm going to meet or whom is Malcolm going to talk to. And that's a good beginning to start talking about Egypt. It was that moment in the movie when Malcolm found the police officers following him everywhere he went. Malcolm came with the message of freedom. But what he found in Egypt is a state of fear, a state of police, military dictatorship. During the presidency of Nasser, in Egypt we developed a saying called, because of the fear we suffered from. The saying, the proverb used to come this way, that walls have ears. So anytime you're meeting with your friends or your family and you would like to discuss something that concerns you, don't try to speak up. Speak slowly so that no one can hear you. Not no one, not even walls. Because walls have ears, and the ears of the wall are connected to the police state. That's what we had in Egypt when Malcolm X visited us in Egypt. The story of Egypt is a long story, but before I start talking about it, I would like to share with you, we are now in the honor of the spirit of Malcolm X. I believe the spirit of Malcolm X is roaming around us, is happy that after so many years, here at MCTC, under this leadership and with your participation, Malcolm is happy now. His ideas, those who tried to kill his body, they only kill the body. But when you kill the body, the ideas are given new life, new force. The spirit moves all over the world. Malcolm is loved everywhere. You remember the end of the movie of Malcolm? Or everyone from South Africa to the Arab world to the rest of the Muslim world, everywhere people were saying Malcolm X, Malcolm X, young and old, men and women. And that is the Malcolm we would like to celebrate today. In the honor of Malcolm's spirit, Malcolm says, I am for truth, no matter who tells it. I am for justice, no matter who it is for or against. That is very telling when we talk about Egypt. Malcolm also says, you cannot separate peace from freedom, because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. Peace and freedom go together. I remember when I was in the streets of Pittsburgh marching against oppression in the Arab world and many different parts of the world, we used to say together, no justice, no peace. Unless there is justice, we will never be able to have peace on the face of the earth. So what we need to do to work to commemorate the spirit of Malcolm X is to work together so that we have justice everywhere we can. Malcolm also says, if you're not ready to die for it, put the word freedom out of your vocabulary. What a great statement. Only those people who love freedom will be willing to sacrifice, even if it reaches to the sacrifice of their own soul, so that the coming generation can live in freedom. And I conclude with the following statement in commemoration of the spirit of Malcolm. Malcolm says, I believe in a religion that believes in freedom. Anytime I have to accept a religion that will not let me fight a battle for my people, I say hell to that religion. Religion is a serious matter. If religion forces you to accept the status quo, you need to reject that religion. If religion supports slavery, that is not a good religion. If a religion supports oppression, that is not a good religion. If a religion supports dictatorship, and I don't care if it is Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, any religion that supports dictatorship, oppression, and slavery is not a good religion. The good religion is that liberates us as individuals and liberates us as a community. With this important statement, to commemorate the spirit of Malcolm X that I see it embracing us all today, this afternoon, let me share with you the story of Egypt. Egypt is a great country. It has great history. We're talking about 7,000 years of history. It was great in civilization. It produced lots of good things to the world, but had serious flaw. And the flaw was, it is oppressive system. We call it pharaonic system. A system that makes the ruler as God or son of God. That's why we built so many pyramids for the pharaohs, for the leaders of Egypt. That's why we built tombs for them inside the mountains in my hometown, Luxor. When you visit us in Luxor, after we break the code for sure, when you visit us in Luxor, I will be happy to take you to the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens, where you will see the leaders of the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. How did they build those tombs inside the mountains? Great civilization. But did that civilization give the freedom and justice for the people who were working there. I can tell you it did not. When you visit us, I live very close to the Temple of Karnak. It is the largest temple in the world. I live just across. You stand in where I live in the balcony of the second floor of my home. You see the Temple of Karnak like over there, just a couple of 100 meters from there. The Temple of Karnak, when you go and visit it during the Sauna light show, it tells you that normal Egyptians who built that Temple of Karnak were not allowed to step inside the Temple of Karnak, because that Temple of Karnak was considered to be for the holy men and for the Pharaoh. You, as a normal human being, you build the temple, but you can't get in, because you belong to a different class. You belong to the lay people. You belong to the people who don't matter, but the people who build. But only the people who call themselves holy men and the people who call themselves pharaohs are the ones who are supposed to celebrate. That is the history. That is the sad part of the history of Egypt. I'm not going to go into deep historical analysis of what went in the 7,000 years, because I know we have to finish in an hour and a half. You don't have a couple of days to finish that. So today I will just focus in very short episode of the modern Egypt. Modern Egypt came to existence when there was a fight between the French and the British in Pennsylvania. The French lost the fight, and the French decided to punish the British. So what did they do? They wanted to cut the road between the British colonies and Great Britain. So how to do that was to occupy Egypt. Imagine when your country is to be occupied so that one country can punish another country. Why did I have to suffer for both the French and the British? Why? But this is what happened. So imagine when you live under colonialism, it's like living as slaves. You become second class. Someone else who does not speak your language controls you for the sake that it's called, look at the way it's called, civilizing mission. The French came to civilize us. We had 7,000 years of civilization, and at the end of the day, welcome to the French. The French didn't stay very long in Egypt, because Egypt tried by all ways and means to resist oppression and colonialism. They were able, together with other forces, to kick them out. But once the French left, the British came in 1882. And they stayed 70 some years. And you know what the British say? We are here not to colonize their bodies, but we're here to colonize their minds. So you open the mind of any Egyptian, now you find a British thinker sitting there. For 70 some years, the British said clearly, we're here to de-Muslimize the Muslims. To de-Muslimize the Muslims. Isn't that strange? You change even the identity of the Egyptian. You know, the ruler of the British used to say, one thing I don't like about Egyptian is that they say inshallah all the time. And why didn't you like it? He said, he just doesn't like it. And what do you plan to do it? He said, I would like to bring an educational system so that Egyptians stopped saying inshallah. I say to him, no, we will continue saying inshallah. And all Egyptians now, Muslims or Christians, say inshallah when they talk about something in the future. When the British, we were able in 1950s to push the British out. In fact, that was the beginning of the end of the British Empire. But something strange happened. Before the British left, the Americans came. Isn't that an interesting story? And the Americans came, but not in face, but in supporting a military dictatorship. So now, instead of being ruled by a different person who looks different, who speaks different language, you're ruled by an Egyptian who has an Egyptian name, speaks Egyptian, but a dictator in nature. What I call, we liberated ourselves from foreign colonialism, and we came suffering under local colonialism. The local colonialism continued from 1952. We suffered a lot. until 2011, for 60 years, we suffered beyond imagination. Lots of corruption. You cannot do anything unless you bribe the officials. Bureaucracy is killing the intellect of great Egyptians. People came to love in poverty, sickness, bad education, no medical services. Can you believe that people used to spend their nights when the night falls on Cairo? Cairo, the great city in the world. People used to go and sleep in the graveyards. They didn't have a place. So what happened? The military, the local colonialism created two classes. 5% class that owns everything. The heads of the military, the heads of the police, and the heads of the judiciary, the heads of the bureaucrats. They control almost 80% of the resources of Egypt. And the rest of the Egyptians are living on the other 20%. In my hometown, Luxor, Luxor is known to be a tourist city. And you always expect a tourist city to be a rich city. 40% of the people of Luxor are living under poverty line. And you know what a poverty line is? You know when you go and get a coffee, small coffee, I got it today from outside. When I came in, I didn't find coffee there. So I got it as $1.70. You know, Egyptians today live on less than $1.76 the whole day. The whole day for just a small cup of coffee. That is the Egypt we have now because of local colonialism and foreign colonialism. Egyptians couldn't take it any longer. I, as a university professor, I was not able to teach the students freely. Students who belong to the police apparatus will come with their tape recorders and tape my lectures. Thank God that I used to speak in English a lot because I know they don't understand English. And I also used another technique. I wanted to teach freedom, but if I say the word freedom, most likely I will be arrested. I wanted to teach people to think critically. I want people to be able to criticize the government, to criticize anything wrong that's going on in the country. What would they do? I'm an English professor. So I started looking for novels and the plays that deal with oppression without necessarily talking about oppression. And you can think of Animal Farm. And I used to refer to Animal Farm as Egypt. And the students believed me. And you cannot imagine those small classes that I used to teach. Other students, excuse me, other students from other schools would come to that particular class of Animal Farm. And we will discuss politics. But I'm still talking about Animal Farm, not about Egypt. And that is the beauty, the power of a teacher. A teacher can teach anything, against and for anything. And that's a fact. And the beauty of it, when students engage with you and understand what you mean. I used to teach plays like An Enemy of the People by Henrik Ibsen. It's about false democracy. That gave me space to say what I wanted without being, in fact, without being targeted. But in spite of this, I was targeted by the police. The police sent a person to my office and told me, "You've crossed the red line. If you keep going, fear for yourself." I was shocked. I am a university professor. I got my PhD from University of Pittsburgh. I deserve to teach what I believe in. If you have any problem with what I teach, come and discuss, but don't threaten me. I said to the man, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm telling you." I said, "Show me your ID." The man ran away. I didn't know what to do. I know that he was sent by the police. We were fed up. We suffered a lot. And I came to America, I did my PhD, and I went back to teach. And during those years, it was very difficult for me, especially after living in a free atmosphere. So Egyptians honestly were fed up with the system. So they went to the streets, and they said clearly, "Al-Sha'b yurid isqat al-nizam." The people demand the dismantling of the system, the local colonialism, system of corruption, system of bribery, system of all you can think of. We went in millions in the streets on January 25th. We were able to topple only the head of the system. The rest of the system remained. We had two options. One option is to continue the revolutionary road until we bring down the whole system. The other option was to go the democratic way and to start gradually fixing the system. I'm sorry to say, many in Egypt preferred the second alternative, to go gradually and fix the system. You know why I am saying this? I'm very sorry that we took that decision. I wish we continued the Malcolm X way, the revolutionary way, so that we dismantle the whole system of corruption. Because the system of corruption does not respect democracy. It does not respect the will of the people. It does not respect the freedom. They would like to live on the top, not to be questioned what to do. They can do anything, kill anyone, without being questioned. That we didn't understand. We believed in democracy as people of Egypt. We wanted to have a democracy. We never had one before. First time ever, we elected our president. First time ever in the history of Egypt, we have our own president by ourselves. Maybe some didn't vote for him. That's fine. That's democracy. You don't have, not all people love Barack Obama. Do you all love Barack Obama? I do. You do. Some don't. That's how democracy works. You see? Not all people can love one particular person all the time. That is the fact in life. So President Morsi was elected by the people of Egypt. What we didn't know, what many Egyptians didn't know, that the deep state, that the rest of the system is still there. And what is the rest of the system? There are 5. Corrupt military officers, corrupt police officers, corrupt judges, judiciary, excuse me, corrupt bureaucrats, corrupt media personnel, and 1/6 corrupt business community. Those came together to form a whip of corruption against the rest of the Egyptians. And what did they do? They planned marches in the street. That was great democracy. I love marches in the streets. I used to march every other day in Luxor. I love it. I believe in street democracy, but I also believe in formal democracy. At the end of the day, when we move in the streets, we send a message. But in a formal democracy, you drop your ballot box and you say, I vote X or Y. And that is how democracy works. But what happened on July 3rd? And I would like you to remember that day, when the first elected president of Egypt was kidnapped. Kidnapped by whom? By the forces of corruption, by the military. The defense minister, that you may in few weeks, you will be told by the media, hey, he was elected as the president of Egypt. He kidnapped the first ever elected president. He put him in jail. Number 2, he suspended the constitution. Number 3, he dismantled the Congress, the Egyptian Congress that was elected by the people. And the worst of all, he killed thousands of Egyptians, burned some of them alive, so that they will not be known. Until today, there are Egyptian families do not know their loved ones. And not only 1,000 killed, but 23,000 are in jail today. Many of them are students like you. There is a strong student movement in Egypt now. I encourage some of you who love freedom and justice for the Egyptians is to join those students in Egypt, so that you spread the word of justice and freedom for all Egyptians. Not a particular part of Egyptian, but all Egyptians. Putting thousands, hundreds of students, you know, the students marching against oppression, and they took them out of the school, they fired them out of the school, and the students say, what do we do? They put young girls in your age. They gave, because of marching, we have a movement called 7 o'clock, 7 early morning movement. They move in the street at 7 o'clock because the police is not ready at that time, so they do not get harassed by the police. But in spite of this, the police captured some of them and they put them and they put them in jail, sentenced them for 11 years for marching in the streets of Egypt demanding their freedom. And you know what, very recently, how much time do we have? Great. Just very recently, the military put 529 Egyptians to court. And you know what the court did? Sentenced them all to death. The judiciary took less than 5 hours to issue the sentence. This is what's happening in Egypt. 529. And the final decision is going to be made on the 28th of May. Of April, I'm sorry. And that's why we're sending a delegation to Egypt to witness these crimes against humanity. These crimes against humanity should not be tolerated. We should stand together. I call upon all Egyptians. There is no politics in Egypt now. There is no political action in Egypt now. It's only the few are trying to control the rest of the Egyptian. There is a lot of oppression. People marching in the streets get attacked. People are kidnapped from their homes. I was in Facebook chatting with a friend of mine in my hometown just 2 nights ago. And I know this is videotaped, but that's fine. It's important, like Malcolm X said, if we fail to speak justice to authority, to power, then we're not worth the freedom we work for. Just 2 nights ago, while I was chatting with him, and I told me, oh, Dr. Dardiri, I have to leave now. Why? He said, I hear the police car are coming in my streets, and most likely they're going to arrest me or any member of my family if they don't find me. It is that fear. That state of fear has to come to an end. So young leaders like Maya and young Egyptians anywhere can live freely, can build a new pyramids of freedom, a new sphinx of justice. That's what Egypt is for. And Egypt is the heart of the Arab world. And you see there are lots of problems in the Arab world. Lots of oppression, lots of dictatorship. Saudi Arabia is an example. You know, women in Saudi Arabia cannot drive cars. Shame on those who do not allow women and they treat them as second-class citizens. That dictatorship, that oppression has to come to an end in the Arab world. In the Arab world, there are lots of atrocities going on. People who love freedom, people who love justice need to come together. I'm calling upon worldwide movement. I founded a movement called Parliamentarians Anti-Coup, or Anti-Coup Parliamentarians, so that I work with parliamentarians, with congressmen, with senators, so that we work together to put an end to oppression, dictatorship, injustice, not only in Egypt, but we would like to have this as a worldwide movement. In the spirit of Malcolm X, we cannot work just for ourselves. We cannot work just for Egypt, or Somalia, or Saudi Arabia. We need to work for freedom and justice for all. And when we have justice, we will have peace. Thank you.
Once again, I would like